Hello, BookTube. We're continuing with my library tour for 2023. We're working our way down this beautiful custom-made bookcase that a beautiful guy named Joe made for me years and years and years ago. Made it specifically to my specifications. Unfortunately, like so many of my boys, he traded in his workshop for a nursery and stopped producing bookcases and started producing children. So I don't think I'm ever going to get another bookcase from that particular manufacturer. I got a few of them. This room is full of them, but I got as many as I could, as many as he had the free time to make. I guess maybe on some level I knew that it was an endangered resource. But this particular bookcase, they were all made to my specifications, and I changed those specs from bookcase to bookcase. And this particular one, I asked him, I measured the height of a normal hardcover, and then I added an inch, only an inch. And I said, that's how tall I want it to be, and I want it to be that deep. Specifically so that I would not be tempted to crosswise stack books or to put books on the lip of the shelf that's free once in front of the books. Knickknacks, things of that sort, sure, I can put there. Change, things like that, but not books. If you have a shelf that's deep enough for books, they're inevitably going to double stack. And some of them are. Some of the bookcases I had him make specifically for that reason, to double the storage, but not this one. So there shouldn't be any transwise books, or at least not many of them in this bookcase. So this first one is from Europa Editions. I praised them just yesterday. They are great. I love their work, and I love the fact that they've reprinted this book, because I think it's one of the great masterpieces of the latter half of the 20th century in fiction. But I don't like the cover at all. This is Earthly Powers by Anthony Burgess. This is the Europa edition with the French flaps. It's a beautiful design. Ordinarily, I use French flaps as sort of a cheat for a bookmark. You can't do it with a book this big. But look at the cover. It's absolutely hideous. Just absolutely hideous. There are a million ways you could design a cover for this book that would be better. A million. And I'm glad this exists. I don't actually have this book in print format in any other format. I don't think I even have the mass market paperback that I read and fell in love with. But this is a sprawling novel, basically about two very different men and the lifelong friendship that they had. One is a bitter, cynical, gay author, and the other is a cleric who eventually rises through one moral compromise after another to become pope. And that makes it sound didactic, because that gives it, the feel that it's going to be a grounds for all sorts of discussions about faith and friendship and personal development. And it is. It is all of that. But it's not didactic at all. It's an amazingly dramatic story. Easily the best thing, I think, that Burgess ever did. I live for the day when I will see it in a Penguin Classic, a Black Spine Penguin Classic. I don't know if that day will ever come. And if the door opens for that day, I'm sure that the temptation will be to put A Clockwork Orange in there for Anthony Burgess first. Like so many authors, Burgess is best known for a weak book. But nevertheless, I can dream. Then this next one is part of the English Countryside series. I have hardly seen any of these out in the wild, as book critics, as book collectors like to say. This is F.H. Crossley. This is his book, The English Abbey. There's a wraparound illustration there. Somebody put a plastic covering on this. And this has pictures of the interior of beautiful French abbeys. It has, let's see, exteriors as well. Let me get you one of those. Yeah, exteriors of English abbeys. It's got absolutely lovely floor plan end papers. And it just takes you through English abbeys, both the ones that still serve as abbeys and the ones that, of course, were, came out in 1936. So right after this, the bombs started falling all over England. And a lot of these properties, these vast properties with huge histories, were destroyed. And more were destroyed after the war than during the war, because after the war, no one could afford to upkeep them. And they'd been famous before then as country houses and country estates after the dissolution of the monasteries. These used to be very wealthy, a lot of them very wealthy religious institutions with pasture lands of their own and rental rights in the town. And when King Henry VIII got rid of all that, gave the boot to all of that, a lot of these went as rich pickings to his courtiers, his advisors, his cabinet members. So all of these things have rich histories, and only a comparative handful of them have been sources of religious worship since the day they started up until today. And this book, it stops a century ago, but I love it. How I wish I could find the rest of the books in the English Countryside series. Okay, then this next one is a cautionary tale. We've already seen this. This is a double in the little book room. You can't have a double in the little book room. Space is at a premium here. Technically, space is at a premium in the whole of the collection. I don't want to have doubles and triples of books. I don't want to do that. Different editions, sure, but an exact double of the same book, those days ought to be over, especially now that I do almost all of I do so much of my reading on my Kindle. This is the original copy that I had from 20 years ago of John Buxton's Sir Philip Sidney and the English Renaissance, which I reinforced. I reinforced it, but it's still falling apart. And it's full of annotations that I just keep meaning to transfer into the like new edition that I found just recently. And of course, the goal is to find either somehow an e-copy of this. I don't think this exists as an e-book, or the original hardcover. This had to be an original hardcover from a university press. I wonder if this tells me. Will it tell me? Oh no. Okay, this apparently originally came out from Macmillan. They would still have brought it out as a hardcover. They didn't bring it out like this. So that's the goal. But in the meantime, I have these two copies, and I really shouldn't. I wonder if this will fit right next to that one as kind of a reminder. Yes, it does. Okay, good. All right. Then we have two books by an author who's come up before. We saw One Day at Beetle Rock by Sally Carrighar. Wonderful, really natural history writer. And her books were wonderful. They were popular. They did really well. She came out with a whole bunch of them. And I've read them all many times. I've read most of them in mass market paperbacks. I love the fact that they're heavily illustrated and that the illustrations are so beautiful. But I have been looking for all of them in hardcovers. Hardcovers with dust jackets from when they were originally released 100 years ago or so. One Day at Beetle Rock, I would love to find. One Day at Teton Marsh, I would love to find. I found a couple. When did this originally come out? 1965. So not 100 years ago. But this is Wild Heritage that I found in a hardcover with a dust jacket. There's our author. And these are just unbelievably delightful. They're full of illustrations, including, like this, playful illustrations that wrap around the text, but also just standalone pictures. Let's see if I can find one of them. Oh, look at that. And I also have Icebound Summer, which is a kind of an Arctic book, that also has the illustrations in this book. I don't know, in Wild Heritage, I'm not 100% sure. Oh, the drawings are by Rachel Horn, and they're very good. They're very playful. But you all know, if you watch this channel too much, I love Henry Bugby Keane. I think he's a great book illustrator, and Icebound Summer is illustrated by him. And these are, let's see if I can find one. He did spot illustrations. There is a seal descending to God unknown depths, but we also have full color things. There is seal pups. Oh no, those are lemmings, I think. Are those lemmings? Yeah, those are lemmings. But I think Henry Keane's pictures are just so much better. And here is a little postcard. There's a New England postcard. Wow. Okay, from 1995. That was a long time ago. A postcard. That is, I think, Wild Heritage, Icebound Summer, and One Day at Beetle Rock. I'm pretty sure that those are all of the Sally Carrighar that I have. I don't think I have any others. There are probably 5 other titles. And I don't think I have any of them in any format. I just eagerly wait to find them, that's all. This next one I've mentioned on this channel many times. It's a great book. You really should read it, even if you read a synopsis and think, okay, well, that's my dad's kind of book or my granddad's kind of book, but that's not for me. I'm not that kind of reader. Okay, I understand that Steve likes it, but I'm not that kind of reader. Keep in mind, on this channel, I draw that distinction. You don't need to draw it for me. I draw that distinction. I was a book recommender at a bookstore for a long time, longer than a lot of you are alive. I draw that distinction already, so you don't have to, right? If I think it's the kind of book your father or your grandfather would enjoy, but that maybe you wouldn't, I will be the one to tell you that. If I say opposite that, this is the kind of book your father or grandfather would like, and you will love it too, you don't need to say, oh, well, he's saying I would love it, but he means my father and grandfather. I'm already working that in. This is Nicholas Montserrat, who's come up a couple of times on this channel. And this is The Cruel Sea. This is his novel about World War II. His full-length novel. This was a runaway success, a huge bestseller for him. The kind of book that makes an author's career, no matter how much he's been writing beforehand and no matter how much he writes afterward. And there's a reason for that. There's a real good reason for that. It usually is. You will love this book. Now, you're looking at this and you're thinking, oh, The Cruel Sea, it's a World War II novel. It's got a ship, a rigging accurate ship on the cover. Oh, no, I won't like that. I don't like books like that at all. You're the one I'm addressing. You will love this. And you know how seriously I take my book recommendations. If you don't love it, I want to hear from you. I don't believe that's possible. I think you will. Then, for some reason, yesterday we saw a mass market copy of Dune. Now we hit a whole bank of mass market copies. Don't really understand that. I have places for mass market copies. The first is, I know why I have them. I love these editions. And a lot of times these were the editions that I found the book in, that I first encountered it. This is One Writer's Beginnings by Eudora Welty. That lovely picture on the cover there. I just think it's fantastic. It's a slim autobiography of her. At her most enchanting. Then a bunch of, oh wait, it's the whole rest of the shelf. The whole rest of the shelf is the novelist Mary Renault. The first one is this old paperback of The Last of the Wine, her first historical novel. Then we have the book that really for her was The Cruel Sea. It broke out. It was a mega bestseller. It was on all the book clubs. I think Reader's Digest did it. And it went into schools. Crucially, it started getting taught in schools, and this is The King Must Die. Her historical retelling of part of the myth of Theseus that is just wonderful. Oh, everything she wrote is wonderful. But then The Persian Boy, in its the mass market copy. This came out as a hardcover, but the mass market copy sold like crazy. This was at a time when well-designed mass market copies like this were just doing gangbusters. Just gangbusters. Actually, The Cruel Sea had a version like this, and that sold more than the hardcover did. So you're the author of the book, and suddenly you've got a huge paycheck that you weren't even expecting because the paperback is selling like crazy. And this is her famous novel. It's one of three, but it's her famous novel about Alexander the Great. But then we leave the mass market paperbacks behind and we go to the hardcovers. I have a hardcover of The Mask of Apollo, where she dramatizes the life of a working actor in ancient Greece. A lot of us know ancient Greece through the plays. Infinitely interesting. We have her novel of The Praise Singer, in which she dramatizes the life of a bard, an epic singer. And again, we know a lot of us know ancient or archaic Greece from Homer. These are the people who were singing Homer to various halls. Only, like with Praise Singer, so too with this one, she gets into the nitty-gritty of what the life of those performers would have been like. And it's wonderful. It really does ring true. Then we have a hardcover copy of The Last of the Wine, on the same shelf as a mass market paperback. Of course, the hardcover is much more durable. And a hardcover copy of Fire from Heaven. And these are all renovated in my old-fashioned way with clear plastic packing tape. And if you start to squeal about that, and if you're purist, I don't so much mind in this case is because I'm not getting rid of any of these hardcovers. These aren't going anywhere. They're going to be buried with me in the Donoghue sarcophagus. So, although I should admit that if I came across these for $1 at the Brattle Bookshop with these dust jackets, I would get them again. For $1, I would get them again and cover them properly. Not that it matters to me, because these aren't come and go. Most of the books in this room should not be come and go. They should be come and stay. So that's kind of weird, though. There's a whole block in the middle of this shelf that is signaled by my bust of Dante. Tom at Tom LA Books got me this bust of Dante. Who would you rather have a bust of Dante from than Tom? It's a treasured item. And it is just the sort of thing. It's just big enough to sit on the lip of this bookcase. The lip of this bookcase is not big enough for anything else. Certainly not big enough for a book. But right behind Dante are these 4 mass market paperbacks. That's kind of strange. That's kind of weird. Why would they be in here? I can't remember my thinking on the matter. I don't think we're going to encounter many mass markets until we get to the other side of the room. But anyway, that is this shelf. So I'll wrap this up here and we'll continue tomorrow. Thank you, BookTube.